Let's do it. Yeah. Ooh.
It's a Coke Zero. It's
Oh, nice.
not a beer, but I do also have a beer. That's irrelevant. Anyway,
Coke
3,
Zero.
2, 1. Hey, Sardonicast. Michael here. We're Sardonicast.
Nice.
I'm not Michael. My name's Adam. I was making fun of Vsauce, a man who I love very much, who has a great series on YouTube Red called Mindfield that I really enjoy. It is possibly
It's okay.
the best series on YouTube Red, or dare I say it, the only good series on YouTube Red.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say, because it's better than the rest of the YouTube Red stuff, so people say it's good. But it's an okay
It's really
show.
great. It's awesome. Anyway, I'm Adam from Your Movie
okay.
Sucks.
Yeah. I'm Ralph from Ralph the Movie Maker, youtube.com/Ralph the Movie Maker. Got him. Ha!
Got him.
Yeah, right, we get it. Chill out. What are you on at the moment?
You should talk that loud the
okay.
whole episode.
I'm Alex from HU.
Hi, Alex. How are you?
I like
Terrible.
You said it so weird. Like I didn't even hear IHE. I heard Aichi.
Aichi.
I said it
from
weird.
Alex from IHE.
Ralph just kind of frightened me is all.
Okay.
I'm startled.
Sorry, Alex.
You got startled.
You can say it again if you want.
No, I'm good.
All
Yeah.
right.
Some people
Awesome.
don't need to.
Exactly.
We got a trailer.
There's a new trailer for a new film, a very special film. It's called Twisted Pair, the new Neil Breen film.
It's gonna be awesome.
He originally promoted it as the title Twisted, but now I guess it is revealed that it's about two characters, so it's Twisted Pair, and it kind of sounds like a fruity Mike's Hard Lemonade drink or something.
Yeah. He said it was a temporary title, Twisted.
Either way,
said
I'm
that from the
sure the
beginning.
film will be delicious. So what we're gonna
I
try to
haven't
do
seen this for the
here
record.
is
yeah.
we're gonna try and
Alex, you
watch
haven't
a trailer together through through screen share. You're not going to be able to see it, obviously, if you're listening on audio. But if it's not a complete mess, we'll edit it as its own video on the channel. And we might actually not even include this part. You might not even hear this. I might edit this out, what I'm saying right now.
Yeah, maybe.
So,
Who knows?
Anyway,
We'll
we're
never
gonna
know.
watch this trailer.
We will.
Do we get do a 3, 2, 1 when you start it?
Okay. 3, 2, 1, clap, you mean?
I don't care. Just fucking whoever's controlling
3,
the video.
2, 1, snap. Oh, yeah. Okay, you guys see it, right?
I see
I
it.
can see it, yeah.
It looks magical.
All right.
It looks fucking great.
Is this
Is this
And
what,
we're probably gonna
fantasy?
pause this a lot.
is this
Yeah.
Avatar?
That is what it looks like, actually. I was wondering what it was. Wait, was
I'm
that
waiting
like
to
a...
see the Navi.
So
Is
he's
one
got
of them a
tiny version
giant?
of himself?
It all changed. There's a bright light in the
He's
sky.
just far away.
So there's two of them?
Perspective. Yes, one of them has a
that's
beard.
the twisted pair? Oh, so it's like twins. Okay.
I don't know if he has a beard yet,
Pure majesty.
but he will.
Hold on, I found
Wow.
out.
I love how much he
eagle.
loves animals.
Holy shit. Wow, his budget really went up a lot.
He has improved as a filmmaker.
And this one, he also has a documentary crew with him, right? Like recording. and
That's
making
what
the
he
movie.
said at the beginning when he was pitching the movie and doing the Indiegogo thing. He hasn't mentioned that since, and I'm worried that he got rid of them
Digital.
or something.
Oh no.
I don't know. We'll see. I would
Well,
love.
they were messing up
I
his
would love to
artistic
see it.
vision then.
I'll take you out to
Mm.
dinner.
I'm just trying to put
This
this
is
together
Oscars.
based on the imagery.
Leave me alone.
Let's have a
I have
drink.
a wife
I'll
and
meet
get
you
out of here.
What is happening?
Miss me.
There's the
Wow,
beard.
dude.
Okay.
I'm with
He's
you.
a
it looks
wish I
bearded
could grow a
boy.
beard that good.
Realistic. Yeah, me too.
Programmable matter.
It's very dramatic.
Kuz's biological.
So that's like a
warfare
classroom
plans
in a school.
Must be
A
stopped.
high school. He managed to.
Infiltrate.
On the weekend, they let him in.
No, they
He
didn't let
hacked
him in.
into
He
their
fucking
database.
snuck in. Yeah, he hacked into the database.
He registered
saying it's Mr.
himself
Robot
as a
hoodie.
student.
Yeah.
Because he's the
Fucking
best
Blues
hacker.
Brothers are there.
Woo!
Whoa!
That was nice.
Holy shit, dude.
I'm
Oh,
just
torture.
excited. What's funny
Yeah.
is you hear him talk about this. He's like, it's completely different from any other movie I've made. Almost trying to like distance himself from the meme and take himself more seriously. I don't know. It looks pretty similar to other things he's made.
No, it looks like. Well, he's not a super god this time. Well, actually.
I mean,
he is.
look at him.
look at him.
Look
He's like
at
a
him.
magician.
Yeah.
He's
He is a
got
super god.
powers.
All right, I take it back.
AI, fright, and interest are not far from each other.
He's just
trying to
more
change it up a
showy
bit.
about
Is
his
he
powers
like
this time.
fucking with everyone,
I
or
trust you.
No,
is he
Neil
completely? Yeah.
Believe things you
He's genuine.
ordinarily believe.
he's a real human being.
Well, and he's not caught on like Birdemic 2 style yet.
No, he's caught on. He just refuses to pander towards
Yeah.
a comedic crowd.
He's just an
Okay.
artist.
He believes in his vision,
He is too.
and his films are so complicated that if somebody laughs at it, he gets to say, "Oh no, you just don't get it." Right? He's able to
I see.
compartmentalize them as people who don't understand his vision, and that's why he's able to keep continuing creating these masterpieces.
This trailer is so long.
It's a long trailer.
Are you sure this
Because
isn't the
he
movie?
definitely-
He uploaded it by accident.
He definitely
Could be.
edited this trailer.
Yeah.
I love
Trailers
this
are
pink
supposed to be, like,
tree.
2 minutes, 10
Living in
seconds.
our
Like, that's the max.
own world
And fucking.
every day.
Yeah. It's like
I don't
4
think he
minutes long.
understands that, or he willfully breaks the
Everyone
rules.
has the right to love.
Yeah, I don't think he willfully breaks the
And
rules. I don't think he
peace.
knows what he's doing. But he's got style.
Breen
His
me,
trailer says
daddy.
otherwise, Ralph. So.
Here.
Oh no.
He's got a shiny heart.
So Neil Breen
Stock
just stared at the
footage.
camera for fucking like 20 seconds, for those of you wondering.
Okay,
so
that's the end.
All right, so
was
I'm
great.
assuming when this is released, people will kill themselves like Avatar so they can enter this world, so they can be with Neil Breen in the afterlife. That's my impression, at least, because this looks glorious.
Is that what you're gonna do, Adam? We should do it like together on Sardonicast.
Suicide Pact?
Like have a live stream.
Oh,
like
yeah.
a Suicide Pact, and we live stream it.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Do it like in
Yeah.
The Happening, where you go into the like cage of the lions.
Oh yeah, we all
Oh
go in.
yeah, I would do that.
I'd totally do that.
Except I'm not into vor. If I was, that would be perfect.
That was great.
Have you
Good
seen all the
God.
other Neil Breen films, you guys? I'm a big fan.
I've seen all of them.
I've only just seen people's various videos
Oh,
on them.
fuck,
I've never actually
man.
sat down.
Oh,
You gotta
really?
do it. You
Yeah.
can't. It's not like other like good bad movies where it's like impossible to enjoy without someone's commentary. I've watched Fateful Findings by myself. It is so good.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh wow, it's that
Okay, you're
good.
selling me on it. I might give it
It's
a shot.
great.
Is that the one I should start with then?
Fateful Findings is my favorite. Although what's weird
Okay.
is like
Yeah.
everybody seems to have a different favorite, but I would say Fateful
Oh, right.
Findings is his best so far.
I'd say most people think Fateful Findings is the best one. I think so too.
I would hope so. But
The
there's a
first-
surprising
the
amount
first
of
one isn't
variety.
all that good. Yeah. What's his first movie?
Double
or is
Down.
it I Am Here Now?
Double Down is his
Double
first.
Down.
I Am Here Now is his second, and then what was the other one called?
Which,
Pass Through.
Pass Through, yeah. Which one of them's the one where it's just stock footage of the desert? and
That's
he's,
Double
like,
Down.
On his laptop? Okay.
That one's like kind of irritating to get through because it's so
Yeah,
repetitive.
exactly. That one's kind of irritating.
Yeah, it looked really boring.
Like that one, you need to have an audience with you of drunk people who are
Mm-hmm.
just as confused as you are.
Exactly. Fateful Findings is just a great movie.
It's a
Like,
masterpiece.
you can watch that.
A legitimate
Okay,
Pass
Through's
Through's
masterpiece.
about that too.
Sorry, I don't know. I've got my throat's a little. I don't know.
Yeah?
It's
Everyone's
groggy.
screaming
It's
today.
okay. Yeah, I know. We're in a very screamy, energetic mood.
it's because Neil Breen has blessed us with a new trailer.
Yeah, that's why. There's a lot of exciting things to talk about today. I'm excited to talk about Fantastic Planet, which we're not going to do yet, obviously.
Oh, yeah.
I'm just very excited
Okay.
for that.
I'm
Yeah.
excited that you're excited for it.
Oh.
What we do? Sorry, it's just a bunch of phlegm. Oh, what's happening? What we do
It's a hairball.
Pat yourself in the back.
have is a discussion. Guys, I'm dying. I don't know what's happening.
Yeah. Are you okay?
I'm not. There was I said something on the last episode that respectfully and very justifiably got a bit of criticism. And I say a bit because it was a bit. It wasn't a lot of people that were criticizing me over this because I think that most people are kind of as ignorant as I am on older movies. So I got away with it for the most part. But I still want to address it. We were talking about Citizen Kane, and I said that most movies made before Citizen Kane didn't understand narrative structure and were essentially just people pointing a camera at things and hoping it would look cool. Although I was being hyperbolic because the example that I gave was Dumbo, which is a movie that is obviously not that. What I said was objectively untrue because there are a lot of films pre-Citizen Kane that do understand narrative structure and are not just people running around with a camera. So I'm not even sure why I said that because I'm already aware of films like M and Metropolis. You can just scour the IMDb top 250 for any pre-1941 movies that you would have to assume have some narrative structure. And although I am still not fluent in 1900 to 1940 filmmaking, I'm not sure why I was under that impression. It was just one of those things where it's like Citizen Kane is kind of put on this gigantic pedestal of being this film that changed everything. And so I was under the impression that part of what it changed was like narrative formulas, because the only films that I'd seen pre-Citizen Kane were like A Trip to the Moon, which is just nonsense. I mean, it looks cool, but it's
a lot of
like
movies
pretty
from that
much
time.
Exactly what I was describing.
That's when film was a novelty. That was way back when
Yeah.
they weren't even really concerned with telling stories. It was just like there's the train film. Where it's just a train pulling into a station. Like that's the way films were for like not a long time, but for quite a few years.
So I got the dates wrong. Let's just say that. And I, for some reason, forgot that films like M and Metropolis exist and that they were pre-Citizen Kane. However...
Yeah, Citizen Kane's 1941, so there were a lot of films with narratives before that.
Apologies for that misinformation.
It's okay.
I do like to take any opportunity that I can to turn a negative into a positive, so I would like to start a discussion on the importance of older film, because I'm interested to hear about what you guys think of like film history and what it means to you and what it means to film criticism in general, because part of how I feel about older film is I'm almost intimidated to really dive into it full force, because with older film comes this really kind of like cliquey attitude, like this dick measuring contest with some people that I'm just I'm just like, do you really enjoy it, or are you just bragging about how old the films you've seen are? And there's legitimately, genuinely people out there, and I'm not trying to say everybody who loves older film is like this, but there's legitimately, undeniably people out there that think that you legitimately cannot have any meaningful discussion on current film if you aren't well versed in film history in the 1900s through 1940s, or however old they arbitrarily want to decide you have to go.
Yeah, well, film history is important. That's
of course
probably why they feel that way. It's incredible. Like, you gotta know how we got here. But yeah, to invalidate other people's opinion for that reason is fucking stupid.
So you were saying that you've seen a decent amount of older films, Ralph.
Yeah.
Would you like to talk about them? Because I'm actually interested in what you've seen. And I want to know specifically what you think kind of contradicts what I said, that hyperbolic, nonsense, untrue statement that I said about pre-Citizen Kane not necessarily understanding narrative structure that well.
Yeah, well, you're kind of... They understood narrative structure well. They had, like, a very template formula story structure that they always used. And Citizen Kane was revolutionary because it was much darker and more mature than most films like that. And it was like one of the first rise and fall stories, at least from what I know. Again, I don't know everything. What am I fucking? I'm 21. I'm a film student. I don't know anything. But like, from what I've seen, yeah, Citizen Kane is definitely, like, you look at other movies from that time, they don't hold up nearly as well as Citizen Kane. Like, the acting and the dialogue is much more mature and grounded for a film in that time, which is why I still love it.
Yeah, so I wasn't really that far off, because that's basically what I was getting at.
Yeah. You were getting at, like films were still figuring themselves out.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I mean, like, it really seemed, and of course, you can only say this from a perspective as, you know, all three of us are in our 20s. All three of us have only existed on this planet for so long. And so you can only have a limited perspective when it comes to things that happened close to 100 years before you were born. Or, you know, close to 50 years before you were born, let's say. Obviously, Dumbo is not a film where people just pointed a camera at something and hoped it looked cool. So I wasn't being super serious when I said it. But I went out of my way to watch Metropolis, actually. I watched that last night. Fritz Lang.
Yeah, Metropolis is cool.
It's one of the pre-Citizen Kane films that I've been looking forward to the most, and I really enjoyed it. However...
Pre-Citizen Kane. It's like an era.
Well, I guess. I mean...
I guess there's probably other way of phrasing it, but yeah. Pre-Citizen Kane era.
Yeah. I really enjoyed it. I thought visually it looked amazing. However, I was really hoping, based on how some people were reacting to my comments, I was really hoping for me to just put it in, and by the end of it, my worldview is challenged, and it's something that I can say, like, oh yeah, this definitely had, you know, as good, if not better, narrative structure than Citizen Kane, but it didn't. And I don't feel like... No. I legitimately tried to challenge my worldview, and by the end of it, I was like, well, yeah, I mean, they clearly didn't have as much of a grip on narrative structure in this film as Citizen Kane or anything after Citizen Kane. Not anything, but...
Or character work. I think that's more specific.
Yeah.
Like, all the characters in Metropolis are very one-dimensional. I mean, it's fine. It's a totally different time they made that movie.
Exactly.
And they had...
Yeah.
Their goals with making it were to make that groundbreaking futuristic world. And everyone saw it for the effects, right? They didn't see it for the story or the characters. It was just a different way of making movies. But yeah, I agree with you, Adam. It's not like when you watch these older films, you're like, oh my god, I didn't know what true film was till I saw this. It's I've never had that experience with it.
I think that some people legitimately do love and appreciate these older films in a completely different way than we do. Because when I watch a film like Metropolis, I'm experiencing it, and I'm mostly interested and engaged of the context of the time period associated with the film, how it was made, the effects, the limitations for the time, and then I wind up giving it a bunch of extra credit for, like, okay, they had shitty acting, but what could you do? It was the 1920s, you know? Or exactly. Like, okay, this doesn't make sense in the story, but what could you do? It's the 1920s. And even though I'm able to watch, experience, appreciate, and even call it a masterpiece for its time, at the same time, I feel like when I'm watching a film like that, I'm doing it as kind of like homework rather than entertainment, you know?
Yeah.
And that's not to like delegitimize it, because obviously it plays a very important role in history, film history, and, you know, to the genre and inspiration of other directors and even, you know, designs, especially for a science fiction film like that, so old. But it's completely different from the experience that I seek for, if that makes sense.
What audiences value now and what like they did back then is different too, and our attention spans are very different.
I think it comes down to the fact that like art history and being an artist are two different things. Like, you don't have to just be one or the other, so you can still be a really good artist without having all the appreciation for decades or even hundreds of years worth of art to get something out of it. And of course you're going to have to start somewhere, and it would be foolish to completely ignore the history that is out there, and of course it's important, but you do have to start somewhere. And of course you're going to stay within the boundaries of what you're familiar with, and you'll gradually, the more knowledge you grow, will reach out and do your research and find out and learn. And that's what this whole process has been for me anyway. I'm gradually going back into older films and learning more and more, as I'm sure we all are. As you said, we're all in our 20s, for God's sake.
Yeah. Films build upon each other over time. And that's like, we've kind of perfected or at least gotten better at certain elements of movie making that we weren't good at back then. I mean, I can't get emotionally involved in a movie like Metropolis because I don't like the characters.
I did at a couple moments.
It's you said shitty acting. I don't think it's shitty acting.
There was
it's
some
definitely
shitty acting.
theatrical.
No,
it's theatrical. It's yeah, even for that standard. Yeah. But it's like exaggerated, and they're going more for a play mentality in terms of all that, which is what films were at first. They just recorded plays, and that's what they thought they were. It was like a good tool for recording plays.
Yeah.
And then over time, they perfected it and found out, if you move the camera here, and maybe if the actor calms down a bit, because he's not acting for people who are sitting in the back of the room, the camera's right there, maybe that would be more effective. And that's how movies got better.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
This is part of the reason why I really wanted to have a this podcast be kind of like a film recommendation sort of thing, because it kind of forces each of us and also anybody listening to kind of go out of their shell and be like, oh, here's a movie I haven't seen before, but they're recommending it, and so we're it's part of the actual podcast. And if I want to listen to the next one and be a part of the discussion or listen to it and not get spoiled, I guess I have to watch it. It kind of encourages people to check new things out. And
to step out of their comfort zone. There's some things you guys recommended that I probably wouldn't have watched otherwise.
Yeah.
Where I was like, oh, okay, let me see what this is, though.
Well, it's like a film book club, basically.
Yeah.
It's a film club. Yeah, book club.
I feel as though, despite me obviously being like not as well versed on like super old film as anybody who went to film school, I feel like if I did spend my efforts studying film in that way, then I would know less about contemporary film. I feel like there's only a certain amount of time in one's day,
Yeah, that's a trade-off too.
And I feel like as a guy that spends a lot of my time watching movies, and still, literally, it's impossible to see every movie that comes out in a year even. Right? It's not possible because there's so many films being made.
That's the thing I've noticed too. All the guys I know who are like, because I go to film school, there's all these like students and professors who watch all these old movies, and they hardly ever watch new movies, most of them. They just stick with their old classics. And they either don't like the way movies are made now and they just never watch them, or they're just more interested in movies from that era than they are movies now. And why they're interested? I mean, you could say they're just jerking themselves off to how many foreign fucking black and white 1940s movies.
French New Wave.
French New Wave. Yeah, French New Wave. Look how many French New Wave movies I've seen. But like, they are allowed to enjoy those things.
Oh yeah. I don't want to delegitimize someone's interest
me either.
if it's
We're
genuine.
gonna fuck with you anyway.
However, I will still say that it's pretty fucking apparent and pretty fucking obvious to everyone in the world that a certain amount of those people, whether the interest is genuine or not, do treat it like a dick measuring contest, which I don't think any genre or era of film ever should be. Because I feel like my strengths are in current, foreign, or independent films. And I definitely hold some sort of purpose out there in the YouTube sphere of just being a guy that can recommend movies to people that they might not have seen before and will enjoy. But I don't ever want to become a person that's like talking down on people because they haven't seen something, Like, I feel like that's completely different because like I want to share my passions to somebody else. I want to share the experiences that I've found, and I want other people to enjoy them, and I share what I think other people will enjoy too.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's obviously a very different context if we're talking about film history, because the films coming out today, although they are a part of film history by technicality, there's no telling exactly how relevant a film will be in the chronology of film history until enough time has passed.
Yeah, till fucking years later.
Yeah.
20 years, maybe. 20 years, you'll understand if a movie's actually good and has a significant impact on history.
Yeah, exactly. Like, we all know Pulp Fiction. I mean, it's been apparent since like 10 years after Pulp Fiction, or even less, you know?
Mhm.
Yeah. Still now, you see some hints of Pulp Fiction lying around some movies.
Yeah. Like,
Yeah.
there's films coming out in current day that are changing norms and inspiring other directors. And I think that's very cool.
Like Black Panther.
Oh,
Yeah.
the best.
Well, I mean, Black Panther had an all-black cast, and that was pretty impressive.
Yeah.
And that made a lot of money. That was cool. That's another thing about old movies you got to get past, is that any movie pre-1970 is probably really racist and really sexist. And I've seen some of these fucking movies.
Except Night of the Living Dead by George Romero.
Yeah, that's probably the only one.
That was one of the breakthrough moments in film history where a black actor was cast as a character that had nothing to do with being black as part of the role. He was just like, oh, this guy's the best actor, let's hire him.
Yeah.
Which is like something that was literally unheard of before that point. What year was that? 1959 or something?
I thought it was like early 60s.
Night of the Living Dead? It was,
check
it was
for
black
you.
and white. Let's see. Yeah, you check for me.
Yes, so Night of the Living. Well, it's low budget too, so like
Oh
every
yeah, that's
filmmaker
true.
Shot on
Every
1968,
filmmaker's first.
1968.
Oh shit. Okay.
Yeah, every
Wow,
filmmaker's
that's a
first
lot later than I thought it
feature
was.
is usually black and white because it's fucking expensive to
even
get color film.
even like Aronofsky and like Nolan and like Kevin Smith.
Yeah,
Like
Kevin
all of their
Smith,
first
of course.
features were black and white. This is like anything
Yeah.
before the digital age. If it was low budget,
Mhm.
that's how it worked.
Which is cool.
Wow,
I do
that's
like
even
seeing
more
that.
embarrassing now. That like
What, that you were
Well,
10 years off?
no, not. I don't care if I'm 10 years off about that.
Yeah,
I don't
it
really
doesn't
give a
matter.
shit about whether or not I was 10 years off. It's more embarrassing because I thought that it must have been in the 50s because there had never been, like, supposedly never been a black actor cast for a part that didn't require him to be black in it before that point, and it was a huge controversy, right? Because that's part of that film's history, as I understand it.
I think so. I mean,
That's like
Sounds right,
literally
I've heard-
1968? Night of the
Yeah.
Living Dead?
Mm-hmm.
That's fucked up.
Yeah, dude.
Okay.
Yeah, it is fucked up. You watch these James Bond movies and like, God, the black people are like fucking cartoon characters and like the comedic relief. Women in every movie pre-1970 is like just the wife and that's it.
Yeah.
They're all like, they're at home with the kid. All right, honey, I'll see you around. They get slapped, some of them. It's
Okay.
fucking like, so
God
that's
damn.
something you got to get past too with these old movies. You just got to
Yeah.
accept it. Like, yeah, it was a different time. It was a totally different time.
Yeah, exactly. Man, times have changed.
Yeah,
And
they really have.
that's also
For the better.
why
For the
film
better,
history
yeah.
In that case,
is important.
Yeah.
And like I said,
Mm-hmm.
I guess just to wrap things up, I don't know, Alex, did you haven't really said much on this. You kind of gave your 2 cents.
I
but-
mean, yeah, I'm just with you guys. I mean, I obviously don't know that much about it. I haven't studied it or gone to film school in the same way someone like Ralph has. But
Losers.
Uh-oh. He's smarter than us. Help.
I'm really not, but go ahead.
you do see echoes of history through like contemporary work,
Mhm.
like the way at the moment everything is made by people who grew up in the 80s, so that's all reflective of things back then and so on and so forth. Like it just repeats itself, so it's not like we're ignoring it on purpose or being ignorant on purpose. It's like, as you said, there are only so many minutes to the day, and chances are I'm gonna stick to something I'm more familiar with. Yeah.
I want to go through every, great film of every decade. I really want to.
Oh, that'd be cool.
Yeah, same.
But again,
I
it's
have
like,
some. Hold on.
please, yeah,
Some.
recommend me some.
Well, Night of the Living Dead is one of them.
Well, that's not pre-Citizen Kane, though, dude.
Yeah, that's not pre. Oh, you want pre-Citizen Kane? Oh,
Yeah,
that's a
I mean,
little
because
rough.
I'm not really
That's the thing.
unfamiliar with
Pre-Citizen Kane,
post-Citizen
there aren't a lot
Kane.
of movies I like. There's King Kong from 1933.
I mean, that's what people
I
are.
think
Oh
that's
yeah,
pretty
I've seen that
fucking dope.
too. I just haven't rated that on
That
IMDb.
movie's awesome.
Yeah.
All right, so how about next episode?
I think I saw Nosferatu.
Pre-1940s.
But I think I saw the
Nosferatu's okay.
weird score version. A lot of older
Yeah.
films, like silent films, they'll have DVD versions of like, this one has a metal soundtrack or something really weird.
Oh yeah? So
Yeah.
you got one of those?
I don't.
Alright.
Well, because I watched it in drama class, and I think that's what my teacher put on. This was a while
the
ago.
Metallica version of
I don't know.
Nosferatu.
Yeah. Something like that. There was apparently a Giorgio Moroder, or whatever you pronounce his name, a version of Metropolis that he was in charge of the composition for, and had a bunch of famous
that's cool.
artists. I think like David Bowie. I don't know if I got that right, but yeah, there was like an 1.5-hour version of that movie. But I saw the complete one last night anyway.
Oh.
And now I'm smart.
Good for you, man.
Now you can lecture everyone on what real film is.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. I'm not an expert in pre-1940s stuff, really.
Oh.
I'm more 50s, 60s.
Well,
so I can't even really speak to older movies like that. I know a little bit.
How insecure does that make you feel?
Yeah, my dick just shrunk 5 inches, dude.
But what do people expect? Is there a list that's you have to have seen all of these films and studied them
Everyone
in detail?
has their fucking
Otherwise-
list, and no one's
I
seen
mean,
everything.
I'm already aware of which films I need to see.
There's tons of movies you need to see.
Exactly.
There's always going to be a fuck ton of movies that you need to see. It's completely irrelevant to make this list of movies and go, okay, if you're a true cinephile, this is the movies you got to see. It's fuck you.
I guess also personal taste and preference has to come into it too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Some people don't like brutal dramas. Some people don't want the misery of Lars von Trier. Some people like to enjoy filmmaking, enjoy their experience in a cinema. God.
Anyway, I guess just to wrap things up, want to be clear to our audience and other cinephiles out there, we are not trying to downplay the importance or legitimacy of older films, their role in history, etc. They can all be appreciated. I guess what we're just trying to communicate is that we're in our 20s and just calm down if we haven't seen any all the movies back from 1900 to 1940 yet, because I would like to get to them and I would like to experience them, but it's just,
yeah, same.
I'm also recording a feature album, and I'm also watching more films from every current year that exists than anybody else I know. If you ask me about any movie that's from 2007 through 2016, I'll probably know exactly what you're talking about, and I've probably seen it or chosen not to because it looks stupid. So,
Mm-hmm. Makes sense.
But there's a lot of fucking movies coming out every fucking year. It's really difficult to keep up.
How many cinephiles can say they've seen The Man Who Killed Hitler and then The Bigfoot?
Yeah, exactly.
Not many. Right?
I've seen Under the Silver Lake 2 times more than anybody else in the world. Actually, that doesn't make sense because 2 times 0 is 0. Not times 2, but plus 2.
Plus 2.
Yeah. Not anybody else in the world. I guess there were other people at those screenings, but anyway, very, very much deserved criticism at myself for making statements that were inaccurate. However, there is criticism that I've gotten on something completely different, on a newer film that I don't understand at all. For my
into it, baby.
Mission Impossible review, and this is out of all of the videos I've ever made, this is the one where I understand the least about why people are upset with what I said.
Yeah, I had that same reaction, Adam.
What did you guys think of the new Mission Impossible Fallout?
Apparently, Mission Impossible fans are rabid fanboys.
I don't get it. When did it turn into
Marvel?
I
didn't know that. I didn't know that.
It turned into
at all.
Marvel
I thought
some
people
point.
just like these movies. Because I said it was a good action movie. Yeah, it was a good action movie, but who cares about the plot and the characters? That was kind of dull and uninteresting. And then I got tons of fucking fuck you, Ralph. What do you know about the series? You can't even pay attention. It's oh my god. It's just a fun action movie. I liked it. What do you want from me?
What is so strange is that what you've said about the film is exactly what I'd imagine anybody who loves it would also say about it. Oh yeah, it's it's dumb fun, but I love it for its action scenes. It was well directed overall. The stunts were impressive, etc. In my review, I gave it so much fucking credit. I mean, I didn't say I liked it, which that might be the biggest problem, but I gave it a shit ton of credit. And I could only imagine that what I said about it is even people who love it, I would have to think, agree for the most part about what I gave it credit for, just that they liked it a lot more. But I just don't understand where I've offended people here.
Like, I totally understand where you're coming from, because it's not a well-written or acted movie, like, even remotely. But, like, it's a fun action movie, and the action's good, right? And that's what I'm there to see. So at the end of the day, it's a good movie.
Yeah,
but I get where you're coming
personally.
from, Adam. Yeah, you loved
I didn't
it?
even say it was bad.
All right,
Yeah.
You said it was like average, Adam.
Yeah,
5 out of 10, which is,
I said.
I mean, for you, that's exactly what you think it deserves, and I agree with
I'm
that.
like 1 point away from you.
It's pretty average. Yeah, it's pretty average stuff, but
I enjoyed
Who do you
half
think
of the
is
movie.
average?
Yeah, I think it's pretty
the
average
thing that I don't understand. Like the effort they went to with it's a goofy, schlocky Mission Impossible film, right? It knows exactly what it is and what it wants to achieve. It wants this like ridiculous non-stop action from beginning to end, right? And that's what they clearly highlighted. I mean,
yeah, but I don't think they did that. I think there's a lot of stuff in this movie, at least a third of it, that's pretty bad dialogue.
I would say half.
Characters and acting. Half?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm going to be a little more generous and say a third, because there is some, like, there are those 2 bait and switch moments in it that are pretty good and pretty well written. When Henry Cavill is doing his plan in the underground lair, and Alec Baldwin's, like, takes out his gun and starts pointing it at Tom Cruise. That was a pretty good scene.
Yeah.
Right? Like, that's it.
I mean, okay, for half of the film, for me, it was fairly exceptional, right? I would say half of the movie, very well directed action, very impressive choreography. None of the effects felt like really fake and cheesy. They weren't like in front of a green screen the entire time, sort of thing. It was very high energy, well paced, and that was half of the movie. And if that half of the movie was the whole movie, I would give it like, I don't know, a 7 at least.
Yeah, me too.
8,
I would
maybe.
give it like a 5 out of 5.
Yeah. If that half of the movie was the movie, then that would be great. But there's another half of the movie that's just boring nonsense.
Yeah.
There's another half of the movie that made me want to fall asleep more than anything else I've seen all year.
Yeah.
And
the opening scene with
that was so funny.
Like,
that was hilarious.
Like Tom Cruise has to save Ving Rhames, and then he turns around and the briefcase is gone. It's like, oh my god, really? I understand you want to pay homage to like corny fucking the Mission Impossible TV show. That's a corny show, right? They're probably paying homage to that.
How much of it is homage, and how much of it is just being what it's always been?
What I'm thinking, because like the visual style of it I actually like, but it looks like a Bourne movie, and the actual tone of the movie is much more comedic.
The lens flare was gross.
The lens flare I was okay with. They're shooting it on film, and they're taking advantage of the anamorphic lenses. Like, whatever. I'm okay with that. J.J. Abrams, I'm fucking used to it.
What did you think of the real opening scene where he was hallucinating? and it was like the villain being like,
my god,
you would like to get married, wouldn't you? Well, you're a bad person. Like, it was really funny to me.
That was really odd.
It was so cheesy.
I mean, I understand the point of it. Like, they had to write that in to show he was scared of the villain. You had to establish the villain as a threat. You had to establish what's her name? Michelle Monaghan. That she's like the love interest in it for people who haven't seen any of these movies or don't know what's going on. Like, I get why they had to put it in there. It's just not very good, and it's really corny. Anyway, Alex, go back to what you liked about it, because we're shitting all over the writing.
Yeah,
defend the writing.
I don't see what's so bad about corny writing when it is like that's exactly what it's trying to be and what it's trying to do. Like, to me, like all the actors felt like they were just fully embracing how stupid it is, and like they know that it's not like a high work of art, and it's about just it is about the action more than anything. I mean, with these like pretty relatable characters, they're pretty one note, but they just work within the confines of the story, and what the whole thing's just about momentum and tension and action, and it reminds me of like classic 80s schlock like Indiana Jones,
Yeah, that's what it reminded me of too, especially the way it was shot.
And I thought they captured that very well. Movie. Like, when I think of Indiana Jones, I think about all the set pieces. I didn't really think about too much all the stuff that ties it together. Like, to me, it's about the journey
totally
more
think
than
that. But like, because Indiana Jones is actually, those movies are pretty well written and funny, and the pacing is fantastic throughout. And I think this is it's very tonally inconsistent. And it's I think most of the comedy writing is pretty bad.
Really? I like the comedy.
Yeah, because the action is pretty goofy. And then the comedy was like this this like normie fucking jokes that I didn't like.
Yeah.
I hate to use that term. It was like this like such, and it was like inoffensive. I don't even fucking remember it. Like, but like they would hit a car or something, and like Ving Rhames would make a pun like, "Oh, better not do that again," and then drive away. It's like, give me a fucking break with this. I don't know how self-aware they were, honestly.
Dude,
that's how I feel about it.
I would love to agree with you, Alex. I would love to have experienced something that you were describing, but
yeah, me too.
Yeah.
But that's not what I got out of it. It was, I mean, if they were truly embracing the action over everything else, then that would be most of the movie and not half of the movie. I wouldn't have to suffer through boring nonsense for an hour and 15 minutes in the 2.5 hour long film, right? So other examples of films that I could say more accurately fit the description to me of what you're describing would be like The Raid, you know? Like where, yeah, sure, there are some moments where it's like, okay, it takes itself a little seriously here to establish who these characters are. But then after that point, you don't really need anything. And then it's just like, okay, balls to the wall action for the rest of the movie. Whereas this film constantly stopping the momentum and going
to have
into
these character moments.
Yeah, exactly. Which are not
the characters are
pulled
like
off very well
flat.
at all. So like if you were to try and imagine this movie without the action scenes, you take that whole entire half of the movie, what do you have? Something that's not really special at all. And I don't think that just because the action scenes exist as half of the movie that should bring up the parts that aren't those scenes. Is what I'm saying.
Yeah,
you know, like those scenes.
That doesn't make it a bad action movie, but that does
that's
bring
like
down
saying
the quality of the overall piece a lot.
Like if you take out the action scenes from The Raid, then what is left?
Exactly,
like really
but that's a significantly smaller portion of the movie, is what I'm saying. I agree with you completely. If you take out the action scenes from The Raid, then you're left with something that's just like boring and like minorly intriguing, I guess. But that's about it. Like you're left with like a 5 out of 10. But that's it. Is the action scenes in The Raid are like, what, 80% of the movie? And the action scenes in Mission Impossible are 50% of the movie? Or maybe even
really
less?
50%?
It felt like it.
Yeah, it didn't feel like 50% to me. But
it really didn't for me. I thought they were very brisk and just moved along at a steady pace, like without grinding it to a halt. I really didn't feel that at all.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was just fine, man. I thought it moved the plot along nicely. Like I don't know what to say. Like it sounds like you're talking about a different movie to me. Like
wow, it's just like there's a lot of scenes in this, like the whole Michelle Monaghan being his wife, and then they meet up at the end of the movie at the.
That was amazing. That was like a total,
that was so
like,
bad.
That was like a total corny like 80s movie moment. It's like it's so channeling like that 80s thing with the way the villain. The way he's like, I can't go into spoilers, but
speaking of villains, I think Henry Cavill was awful in it. Do you agree with that? At least, Alex.
He's a charisma vacuum, that's for sure. but I think he has more fun towards the end. I guess you've already spoiled the thing.
Oh yeah, dude, we know from the fucking trailer that he's not a good guy. They didn't really play it off as a twist either. They revealed it pretty early on, which I like.
It's quite early on, but I think he's more enjoyable once he's a villain, that's for sure.
Yeah, they have the fucking scene with him, and he goes on some roof during Golden Hour with some other lady who's like the head of the CIA, right? Or not the CIA, some other thing. It's like this scene again when they fucking meet on the roof of some building in DC and they hand each other files. How many times have I seen this? How many times are they going to do the face machine that makes new faces and makes the masks that Tom Cruise has to put on and sneak into the place? It's like, how many times are we going to do this?
I guess it's all dependent on just what lens you're viewing those non-action scenes with, because I legitimately would love to have experienced them in the way that you did, Alex. Like I would love to see this as some sort of like almost intentional comedy, I guess. Like I don't know, like Black Dynamite is an example where it's like, okay, they're clearly playing on it, they're clearly self-aware, it's tongue-in-cheek, whereas this it just felt like it was if it was doing it in a self-aware way, it was indistinguishable from something that wasn't.
Yeah, right? It didn't really come across to me. And the score might have helped with that too, because it doesn't have like a... has a pretty
score's
standard
amazing.
action score. You think
No,
so?
I thought it was way above average. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's what brings everything together.
I think they used temp music for one part when Tom Cruise's his squad was going like underground. They were gonna like hit the SWAT vehicle into the ocean. They were using like the opening music for Dark Knight Rises.
Are you sure it's not just because Lorne Balfe was he was taught by Hans Zimmer, so they use a lot of similar techniques, and he did the music for he helped on the music for Dunkirk as well. So
okay, that's interesting. Actually, I didn't know that.
A lot of similar techniques in there, and yeah, I thought the score was really good, way above average for like an action movie like this. For me, it's what makes all the action scenes work so well, combined with all the other bits. Like, I'm by no means like a fan of the Mission Impossible series particularly. This is the only one I've liked to this degree and was completely surprised by how good I thought it was.
Yeah.
Like I even rewatched the one from the Macquarie, the director, did before this one, and I was like, that's the film that it sounds like you guys are describing, where it's like, it blows its load instantly. There's like corny dialogue, but without it driving towards anything or there being any sense of momentum or proper pace. Like, it's fine, like mediocre, but I think this one is like just a total lightning in a bottle, like brilliant action film compared to most of what, like, I was trying to compare it to other action films. If you leave out The Raid, because they're exceptional, like, you just don't get this level of like realism and grounded action in stupid Hollywood films like this that are really true to like that whole 80s spy, well, it's more like 60s motif that the original TV show is like based around.
Yeah, it borrows a lot. It borrows like the tone from the 60s and then the 70s style of shooting action, where it's kind of, it reminded me a lot of French Connection, that car chase in it, where it's like all attached to the car.
Well, because so much of the action is like practical too. Right.
Yeah.
Much of the action is like the marketing campaign for every Mission Impossible movie at this point is like, hey, do you remember that Tom Cruise does his own stunts?
Yeah, which is awesome. Yeah. I mean, and it totally comes through in the movie. I mean,
like
that helicopter chase at the end is fucking ridiculous. Yeah. And I just wish, I wish I'd gotten that same sense of self-awareness that you did.
Dude, it's like,
because I think it should have been, I think it could have stood to be goofier. Maybe, and maybe the acting be a bit more over the top for me to really get that.
I really like it when really goofy universes take themselves really seriously within like the universe, but from our perspective, it is completely ridiculous. But for them, it's really serious, it is world-ending, and it helps keeps the stakes kind of
I don't know, they just felt
relative.
Like characters out of a movie for me.
What you're describing just feels indistinguishable from any bad movie.
Yeah, that's how it felt for me.
Like if it's literally just the same as a movie that doesn't understand it's self-aware, that's how I feel about it. Is it's indistinguishable. And let's not say the whole movie, but the half of the movie that is those boring spy dialogue, like cheesy recycled plot, rehashed villains, no character, cheesy death scene of just like the characters watching him as he dies. Like, oh yeah, he has just enough breath left to be like, oh, remember me. Like, come on. You know, there's so much of it that's just like, this is identical to something that is not self-aware.
Yeah, so like you're describing why Alex loves it, and I get it.
And that's exactly so strange to me. It's just like when you watch it through a different lens of, I guess, intent, you know, it all comes down to like what you think their intentions were.
Yeah,
I think they thought they could get by doing the bare minimum in terms of the writing because they know no one is there for that, and so they just wrote in a very standard spy story. And maybe there's like a veneer of fucking self-awareness, but at the end of the day, I mean, they could have done what Edgar Wright does and actually elevate the material, but they really didn't. And that's why I think it's okay. I still like the movie, but I mean, I'm not going to give it glowing review.
If we're going to say that self-awareness is just limited to, the movie knew what it wanted to be and did that, but didn't give any hints, but was still indistinguishable from schlock, then you could make that same argument for like Sherlock Gnomes then. It's like, it just wants to be a dumb kid movie. It's not trying to be anything different.
No, like, what about the whole, like, running plot of the film that Ethan Hunt is basically like a superhero, and everyone's just like, man, like it's so good you're around because we'd be fucked. Like,
yeah, but I'm used to that by now, right? It's not as entertaining anymore because we're at the sixth.
I've seen that done many times before in many different action movies where it's like,
and plus that's Tom Cruise now. That's all he does.
How will you not die? Or like, man, he got out of this one again. You have to be able, if you're especially in the sixth film in a franchise, you need to be able to say something like, yes, we understand that he's basically invincible, but this is the movie, right?
Yeah.
And it's like,
you gotta accept it.
It is self-aware to some extent, but it still doesn't present itself in any way that's indistinguishable from a movie that isn't. You know?
I guess.
We're just going around in circles.
Yeah, don't feel bad about this, Alex, because even though it seems like we might be
think there's a fundamental
like
fork in the road as soon as we get to once you remove the action scenes from the rest of it.
I think that's a silly complaint, like, oh, if they remove the action scenes. Like, obviously it wouldn't be as good. That's the point of the movie. Like, but the action scenes are there, and it's super impressive.
Half of the movie was great. Half of the movie was awesome, and I agree with what other people say about half of the movie. But then there's another hour and 15 minutes that really drags it down for me. Is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I got that.
Okay.
But either way, I mean, it sounds like Alex is the minority on this podcast, but Ralph and I are the overwhelming minority in the real world.
Yeah, exactly. So we get to bully one of you. But, like, we still like it. We all like the movie. We all thought it was okay, at least. None of us think it's bad.
Yeah.
And
like, it's all right.
Good job, Tom Cruise, fucking movie star going out there getting himself killed.
Part of the reason why I don't understand all the heat that I got from that review was, like, I recommended it to fans of the franchise. I was like, hey, I'm not a fan of the franchise. I don't enjoy it that much because it's just like other Mission Impossible movies or whatever. If you liked the other ones, you'll probably love this. I recommend it to people who do like the other films, you know? And yet people were still what seemed to be, I guess, personally offended, not by, I guess, me saying anything incorrect about the film, but just me saying that I didn't enjoy it that much overall. And I'm just
people
so
on the
confused.
internet are dicks. They're just dicks.
I don't
Just
get it.
ignore them.
It's like, what, you want me to lie
what
to you? You want me to fake my opinions for you? Oh, my favorite criticism was, like, I called the movie predictable for the most part. And there were so many comments of people saying, well, yeah, but your reviews are predictable, so you can't call a movie out for being predictable, because I knew you were going to find it average, and I knew you were going to give it a 5 out of 10. Well, it's like, okay, well, what is consistency? You know? My reviews are to provide recommendations for people that have similar tastes to me and be honest about my experience. You want me to lie in my reviews and pretend like I enjoyed something I didn't, or pretend to dislike something that I do enjoy just to change it up, give you a little twist, pull a M. Night Shyamalan on my reviews to make them more entertaining? I don't think that's what reviews are for.
Yeah. Good job, Tom.
You did it. You got him.
Keeping it up.
Keeping the
Did
dream
you see
alive.
Any hidden Scientology? Did you see any Scientology, like, product placement or hidden messages in the movie?
No, but I saw his Illuminati snake eyes change.
No. I didn't see that.
No.
Awesome.
Okay.
Okay.
Ralph.
You do Fantastic Planet.
Well, no, we'll get to that really soon.
Okay.
There's everybody's been bugging me about something, and they want me to ask you a question. I don't know. Oh, you already know what it is? I'm sure they've been bugging you too.
I might.
How tall are you?
Oh, I don't know. I've never checked.
Okay.
Lies.
Good answer.
I find it so funny how much the meme has grown, and I'm just gonna leave it and see how much more it can grow. Because I've intentionally ignored it. Do any of you know what I'm talking about? Alex, you know what I'm talking about?
No.
There's this picture of me and Adam, and, like, we're like photoshopped onto Smurfs or something?
I don't even know if I've seen that.
You haven't?
You're on Smurfs.
Oh my god, I gotta fucking find this. Hold on.
What is it, on
It's
the
really
Reddit
funny.
or something?
No, it's on my Twitter. They keep asking me how tall I am in my Twitter, and they put, like, this really funny picture. It's photoshopped, like, my face and Adam's face on... Oh yeah, Mini-Me and then Dr. Evil from fucking Austin Powers. It's great. But yeah, I'm not gonna answer the question.
Okay.
You're gonna have to keep asking me.
Well, no matter how tall you are, that
that.
might be accurate because I'm a very tall boy.
Yeah, you're very tall, and I'm not short, but I'm pretty short compared to I'm like average, maybe slightly below average.
All right.
Yeah. So that's probably a realistic measurement.
5'7". But you don't have to say anything.
Oh yeah, I don't have to say anything. That's right. I won't.
That's my guess. We're taking guesses here. We're doing a
oh yeah, Alex,
we're doing
what's
a
your
raffle.
Guess?
5'2".
Whoa.
5'2". What am I, a fucking midget? I'm not 5'2". But...
I think 5'7" is probably a good guess.
Okay, guys, we've
5'7" is pretty good.
5'2", yeah.
Yeah, 5'7" is pretty close.
All right, so you basically revealed it. All right.
Yeah, I guess. You can cut that out.
Oh, I can.
Bleep out.
Hey, I didn't say exactly what it was.
Yeah, I could cut that out, couldn't I?
Now I'm gonna get messages like 5'8", 5'7". Are you 5'6"? They're gonna be like around that area.
How tall in centimeters? No one
Centimeters.
Will
I
figure
can't
that
do
out
Yeah.
except Alex.
Yeah, I will.
Yeah. Your fucking measurement system.
All right. So we have a movie that we would like to discuss that was recommended in the previous episode of this podcast. It is a recommendation that I gave to Ralph and Alex and all of you. And if you would like to not be spoiled for this film, I encourage you to watch this film before you listen to this part of the podcast. It's called Fantastic Planet, or La Planète Sauvage. And I guess the more accurate English translation would be The Wild Planet, because that's what they keep saying in the movie. But anyway, it's directed by René Laloux, and it's from 1973, I think. Yeah. And basically, I guess just to give a plot synopsis, the film takes place in kind of a dystopian alternate reality, perhaps future reality, of a planet where human beings are not the dominant species, and they are essentially treated as pets by a much larger, much more powerful, and much more technologically advanced species. And
the drugs.
The drugs. And human beings are referred to as hommes, which in the subtitles are spelled OMS, but the actual French word for man is HOMME, which is also pronounced
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of how that works, I guess. What did you guys think of this film?
Oh boy!
I know, Ralph, you loved it. You absolutely loved it.
Yeah, I absolutely loved it too. I've seen it 4 times since.
Really?
Yeah,
that's crazy.
Since I first watched it,
you've broken
I
the
fucking
record.
loved it.
Wow.
I got it on Blu-ray. I watched the Blu-ray.
Criterion?
Also came with all the shorts. Yeah. It came with the short too, the snails one, as well as one other one, which I also watched.
Yeah.
And yeah, the short is great with the snails.
Mm-hmm.
This movie is fucking amazing in every way. It's one of my favorite movies now.
Awesome.
And I could say that because I've seen it 4 times, and I plan on seeing it a 5th at some point.
Well, I'm glad I've introduced it to you. What did you think, Alex?
I liked it. I don't know how I'm supposed to follow up after that. Not nearly as much as Ralph. I had a few issues with it, but overall, I did very much appreciate what it was.
Why do you hate it?
Oh god, here we go. A complete 180.
Yeah.
Here's the thing, right? It's one of those things where I appreciate it more than I actually like it. I think for what it was going for, it was kind of bang on. But there's only so much I can kind of attach myself to these. What's the best way to describe them? It's almost like an Aesop's fable kind of thing, where it's like it's kind of a detached look at this fantastical story that at its very core, it's not so subtle core, has this kind of allegorical message about any number of things, be it slavery, animal abuse, racism, all that kind of stuff. But for me, my biggest problem is without the allegory, there isn't that much else for me to sort of delve into and get attached to. Like, it's not very purposefully, the film is not about characters at all. It even sets up major characters and just abandons them within minutes. And I guess it's just a matter of does this Aesop's fable speak to you or not? I mean, the art direction is pretty fantastic, and the style of animation, being that kind of stop motion as opposed to hand-drawn frame animation, is certainly unique.
That was amazing.
It's like Terry Gilliam.
Yeah.
They did the animation like they had cutouts, right? And they just did stop motion with
kind
the
of
cutouts.
like South Park.
Okay.
like
yeah,
originally
like South Park.
did.
Probably the best example I've
better
seen
than South Park,
of that kind of animation, though.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Definitely.
It looks fucking fantastic. I didn't even know the first time watching it how it was animated. I was like, it was gorgeous. Yeah, so much style to it, and everything actually felt alien. Everything felt so leagues and bounds beyond what you could find on Earth. It was so interesting. Even like the plants would do like these little fucking things, open and close and make these weird noises, and you're like, what the hell?
Shake them up and throw them on the ground and laugh.
Yeah. That was one of my favorite elements of it, is that this world that you're in is just so odd.
Yeah.
And you can get the gist of what they're doing, but you'll never fully understand it. Their whole meditation technique was really fucking cool to see.
Yeah. It's kind of in the same vein as Under the Skin, in a sense, where in order to present human beings as this lesser species, it makes sense to present concepts that the viewer could never truly understand, because if you're trying to look at life through the perspective of a pet in our world, or like a gerbil or some shit, like they don't know how we turn the lights on, they don't know what cars are, they don't know how that shit works, there's so many things that we could just like do in front of them that they could never possibly understand technologically. And I like that kind of brings that perspective into our own minds, where we can look at something and be like, what the fuck? Like, you can kind of get the gist of what's happening, but you really don't understand how things work. You really don't understand what exactly is happening, because it's just so far beyond our comprehension. And I really like that being in play.
Yeah, you get that they're eating in one scene, but it's like this fucking cloud that they stand in front of, and like little like clouds come out of it and go into their mouth. You're like, huh. But yeah, they take humanity totally out of its element and puts it on this foreign planet, which was so interesting. And the stakes were so high too, which is also what made the story so interesting. You said, Alex, like there aren't a lot of characters to attach to, and
no, there are lots of characters. They just don't really have character.
I guess. Because it's such a grand story they're telling. It's just like, this character only serves this purpose in the story, and then that's about it.
Yeah.
Like, the little girl, what's her name? The alien girl.
I forget her name.
that adopts...
Zubilu.
That adopts our main character. Zubilu.
Zabumafu.
Like Tiva?
Yeah,
something like that?
Yeah, that's close
Tiva,
to it.
Maybe.
Yeah.
It's Tiwa, isn't it?
Tiwa or Tiva, somewhere along those lines.
I can look it up.
Yeah. Doesn't matter.
Yeah,
whatever.
Matter. I forgot the point I was making anyway. I'm gonna look up her name. Why don't you talk?
She is one of the more main characters in the film. But
I'm saying, that's right. So she was
Tiwa?
serving her purpose, and that was it. And then once our main character moves on from there, like, we don't really need to see her anymore. And the movie's so short, it wasn't like it relied on characters for me to stay invested, because everything went by so briskly.
Yeah.
Like, I wasn't really like, I need to see what this character's up to, because that's not the meat of the story for me, and what made it so interesting.
I almost feel as if animation weren't so expensive, perhaps we would have seen certain things more fleshed out, because this is a short movie.
Yeah. It is,
animation
which I love
is
about
super
it.
fucking expensive.
Yeah.
So I don't know if the runtime was reflective of its limitations. It probably was.
Mm-hmm.
I found a quote like in direct response to what you just said there. I think it's actually like a cultural thing. Someone here, one of the animators, a Czech guy, said that in like Czech animation is that they treat characters as symbols rather than well-rounded characters. So
interesting.
the films, it's like purposefully somewhat simplistic, and like characters aren't developed on purpose, which is like interesting and not very common.
It is a very different way of telling a story, but that's also what helps it become more unique overall.
Yeah.
I do think that this is, like the title suggests, it's about the world, not necessarily about an individual within the world. It's about the concepts that it makes you think about, how the environment and how these species relate to each other, how they treat each other, and I guess what it means to be the dominant species, what it means to be a human, what it means to be a drag, you know, and having their beliefs as entire species being changed throughout the film, not necessarily focusing on an individual.
Yeah. I love that about it. But there is some, it's not like a totally disconnected view with no heart at all. Because we do follow, what's the kid's name? Tur, right? Like as he grows up, basically from when he's a baby to when he's fully grown, and we see humanity evolve with him. So there was that, giving the story some like structure and through line and some heart too. And there's also like the fact that Tiwa actually loved Tur was sweet. That was like a nice chapter of the movie. Yeah. She did genuinely treat him like a pet. Like she thought she was treating him well.
Exactly.
Right? Which is, it's just as fucked up. And it's an interesting statement on like, well, slavery in America, we would just treat people like property. Yeah. And I guess that's what it's commenting on.
Well, I think it's the way that she treated her is very similarly to how children, human beings, treat their pets. You know, like you see a kid with a gerbil, you know that gerbil's basically being abused. If there's like a 10-year-old girl with a gerbil, you know she's probably not taking care of it very well and doesn't know it. You know. But we don't really give a shit because it's like, whatever, they're just gerbils. But
they're dumb and they have no self-awareness.
Exactly. And so to these larger beings, human beings are dumb. It's like, what? They can't blah 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 blah. Like they don't even understand shit, right? And I guess just in this story, it's like, human beings are perfectly capable of some sort of higher understanding with the help of their like brain learning technology that implements history directly into your brain. And who knows if even other species on that planet would have the same experience. But I think that it is a very unique and important perspective to place people into, to try and, I guess, give people a sense of empathy that they might not have, or at least try to make them think about our relationship with lesser species, or, you know, what we consider to be lesser species and how we treat them.
Or just how we've treated people throughout history. We have fucking treated people like this.
Yeah.
Where, you know, again, going back to American slavery, we, like, the adults in this movie treat the very differently than the kids do. They treat them like they treated slaves. They're property. They're just fucking toys, right? And as long as they're not serving their purpose, you could just fucking get rid of them.
Yeah, it's a very very colorful, very creative.
Yeah,
very
creative.
Yeah, incredibly
Trippy.
Creative. Trippy. I love the 70s soundtrack. You know, I
the
think
soundtrack
it fits
is fucking
so
excellent.
perfectly. That exists on vinyl, by the way. I might pick it up.
I'm totally getting that.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen it at
The
a couple record
meditation
stores.
scene was awesome.
Yeah.
I love the design of the aliens. It was just so odd.
Their
All
eyes.
the women had their eyes were awesome. I don't know what the hell that was. Was that like they had some like object in real life, like a 3-dimensional object, and they put it on top of like whatever they were scanning, the paper? Because it looked like it had some dimension to it.
I'm
Well,
not
they
sure.
use like that cross stitching to create a lot of depth in terms of like the. I don't know if they did for the eyes. I'd have to look at it again right now, but I wouldn't be surprised if they did do something like that.
Yeah, that's super interesting. Yeah, it was just so good.
Yeah, I feel like every element of this film was appropriate for what it is, and it's something that, like, again, like many films that I love, all of my favorite films, pretty much, it's an experience that you can't substitute with another movie. You can't possibly say, "Oh yeah, this is just like blank." maybe specific elements, I compared it to Under the Skin in a very specific way, but the overall experience of this movie, tone-wise and presentation, everything about it is just this movie alone, and there hasn't been anything like it since. And it's been 40, 50 years almost.
No.
Do you know what it makes me think of?
What?
I can imagine, like, in some alternate universe that this is like the basis of someone's religion or beliefs or something. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like one of those.
Felt so real.
Yeah, those classic kind of stories that people, I don't know, dig up from the past or study, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Even when they were getting the lessons imprinted in their brain, they would read off these facts that just made the world they were in feel so much more alive. Like there was actually this whole society going on outside of the story that's being told.
I feel like part of the reason why they were able to have so much about the world itself condensed into this super short film is because they didn't spend so long developing individual characters. It's kind of a trade-off in a sense.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. I find for animation, for me, I don't get involved in the characters as much as I do the setting and the animation and the creative concepts it's exploring. Because an animated character, for me, I'm not really going to feel that much for it because it's a drawing, right? Yeah, that's just how I feel. I think it's, well, again, just for me, it's more of a vehicle for exploring concepts.
But if you give them really big eyes, then you can feel sad for them.
If you give them really big eyes.
Disney eyes.
Yeah. I mean, even the Drogs have some design elements that make you clearly are supposed to sympathize with them somewhat. They have human features, right?
Yeah.
You're supposed to relate
They're not
to
like
them,
totally...
They're the human inserts, aren't they? So
of course they are. And you're supposed to think, it's fucked up what they're doing. But at the same time, we do the same shit.
Yeah.
So how fucked up can it be?
Exactly.
Yeah.
What was your favorite aspect to the film, Alex?
probably the art direction and the world building. Just weird little details, like there's that really weird scene where that guy is just smacking on a box, some crazy technology, and then he's sucked into the box. It's okay, I guess that happened. That's something that they can do in this world.
Yeah.
You know, those drones that they'd fly around that were casting these beams of light, or what you thought were beams of light, but then they'd leave the...
That shit was scary.
Yeah.
the scene when they unleash those smoke pellets in the cave.
Yeah.
De-umming.
That was a scary... Yeah, they're de-umming. That was a scary-ass scene.
Lots of oppressive imagery, totalitarian, controlling imagery. Reminds me of the Wall movie a bit as well. Had a bunch of similarities.
I haven't seen that yet. I would really like to.
Well, haven't you? It's got really impressive animation, and there's a bunch of similar themes about that movie. I would recommend that one too, if you like this kind of thing.
I love how very unapologetically brutal it is, and it's not particularly gory in any sense. A lot of the violence and a lot of the death that you see is still very detached in a sense, where you see dozens of silhouette figures basically just running away and then being trampled by this gigantic ball that's collecting them up, or as they're being killed by those beams of light, or anything that's mass killing all of the people in this film. It's shown in such a strangely detached way, and yet it's still so effective, and it's still so
cruel.
Horrific in a sense and terrifying.
Yeah. Well, it makes them look like ants, doesn't it?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It's just very cruel. And even just the idea of the kid having to grow up, and he's basically just a toy for the first 15 years of his life, and he has no parents or no life or anything. He's just this fucking alien's toy. That's really disturbing and cruel as well. There's a lot of stuff going on in this movie like that. Would you recommend this movie for children? I mean, I'm not saying it's a children's movie, but
not at all.
I'm just curious because we talked about this with Isle of Dogs.
This would have appeared on my childhood trauma list if I had seen it as a child.
Oh yeah,
probably.
I have read some reviews about kids who saw this when they were young and they liked it.
Well, yeah, because it's animated, and their parents would rent it for them at a fucking movie store. movie rental place.
They don't understand the implications of what they're watching.
I really hope we get past that point of the implication that animated films are just for kids.
Oh,
I hope that there's
stupid, isn't it?
more adult-oriented animated films that get released in the future, and I hope it becomes more commonplace.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's so much you can do with animation.
Yeah, such a waste to just make kids movies with it.
That's a limitation that you place upon it. But animation is a medium where you can literally do whatever you want. Like, there's no limitations to what you can show. There's limitations in the budget for sure, in runtime, like any movie, but there's no limitation to what you can show creatively. You don't even have to think about the practicality of showing something visually until you get down to the actual storyboarding and how you're going to present it, like cinematography, shot composition wise.
Yeah. That's the way the animators designed the animation in this movie too, because they said they wanted to contrast the smooth style of like Disney or Miyazaki movies, and they just wanted to make a very formal and kind of stiff, rigid looking animation. Not that that's an insult. I mean, the movie looks great. It's just it's clearly not as free flowing as like Aladdin or something like that, like a Disney movie.
It's not as like calm and pretty looking. I mean, it's pretty in its own way, but
it is in a different way.
Yeah,
in a more adult, restrained way.
The style of animation alone, even just in comedic elements from Terry Gilliam animations in Monty Python, when I was younger, that shit scared the hell out of me. Just the style of the animation alone, even though it wasn't even trying to be scary. So I feel like the presentation in that sense does bring an element of just kind of like a disturbing way of showing it just through the stop motion cutout style alone.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah, if like a Disney movie was propaganda, this would be the documentary footage of like what was actually going on. That's the kind of contrast it has with how like violent it is. Like even that scene where they have the combat animals and they're like fighting with those weird animals, scene. And it just bites onto them and just kills someone with it.
Just tied to their chests.
Yeah.
That's how they did it. I love that too. The humans also had their whole structure of society as well, underground. It felt so well thought out, everything.
What are your biggest criticisms with the movie?
None.
Well, for me, it's, as I said, like, I'm quite traditional in terms of the things I get attached to. Like, I can appreciate it as a work of art on its own, but when I don't have that emotional connection, I just don't have that same enthusiasm, if that makes sense. It's not even really criticism. If I really wanted to say criticism, I guess there's some repetitive animation here and there that I noticed where they were reusing stuff. It could just be budgetary though. A couple of the backgrounds were a bit empty for me. Might be the point of the scenes if I rewatched it again. But that's just about it. 'Cause I mean, what it's going for, it does totally nail. It's just a matter of if that really resonates with you or not. And I think it is an important message for people. There are certainly people who do need to like see something like this to wrap their heads around what this film is trying to teach. But aside from that, I mean, there isn't much to really dislike about it. You know? Do you guys have anything?
It's amazing how much it manages to say in like an hour and 11 minutes. Is that how long it is? Just about
74 minutes, I think.
Yeah, 74 minutes.
73.
The stuff it's tackling is pretty dense topics, and it manages to actually have a point and say something.
Well, it is a clever way to do it. Without the schmaltz, it could be very cheesy and kind of heavy-handed with that message, but it's so clear and frank about it from the beginning of what it's trying to do, and that does help.
Yeah, that opening scene is just disturbing.
It is. There's a lot of really disturbing
fucking
stuff.
Flick the mother away with your finger. That's all you see of the drags at first is literally just this god hand coming down from the sky, being like, "Nope, sorry, flick."
Meanwhile,
like, you're insignificant.
Kids. Like, they're not even being attacked by anything that threatening. They're being attacked by children just fucking around in the dirt. Like just that sets the stage so well for the horrors that await you in this movie.
When one of them dies and they're like, she's not moving, now we can't play with her anymore. There's so much of indifference, like there's no empathy there from these things that don't even really fully understand that they're abusing this other species, which I find fascinating, because that's literally just what human beings do, There's a psychological detachment.
Yeah, they turned our own mindset back onto us and like, yep, that's how you're like, you cruel fuck, and you won't change, and that's the point of the movie. It's one of the points of the movie.
Is there anything you aren't fond of, Adam? Or
I have this issue in a few different movies. The little boy raised from the aliens, but then he meets somebody in the woods and they both speak the same language. They speak fluently to each other. I'm like, that's a little weird, because like it wasn't. I don't know. Like they were supposedly not educated and separated from each other, so I just find it weird that they were able to communicate so fluently with each other right off the bat.
They might have had other info. Like, they probably at least had the language down. Other OMs, the wild OMs.
The only other real issue that I have with it is that it ends kind of abruptly. I don't feel like it had as much of a, like, calm down kind of conclusive ending as I would have liked. I would have preferred, I guess, maybe just, like, a couple more minutes just to kind of, like, ease us into the fact that the movie's over. But to me, it felt like it was just kind of like, oh, it's over now.
Yeah, it kind of wrapped up too quick.
Yeah, very fast.
There's no, like, build-up, really, to the climax. It's just kind of like they get to the planet and they shoot some shit, and then we cut to years later, and they explain what happened. And
we did it.
It was, like, wrapped up in 2 minutes. Yeah.
It is
and it was cool. It was still really good. I still loved it. But, yeah, they could have made that a few minutes longer, and it probably would have been better.
Yeah. Otherwise, I think the movie's great. I love it.
Mm-hmm.
Can't get that experience anywhere else. Very unique, very smart, creative, impactful. Love it.
Fantastic.
What would you guys give it?
I know what Ralph gave it.
Like a 5 out of 10.
Okay.
Alex?
Okay, I'll go then. I think I'd give it an 8 or a 9.
Oh, good.
Oh, wow. Ralph gave it a 5 out of 5, in case anybody took that seriously. For sure, you gave it a 5 out of 5. There's no debate there.
It's okay. It's an okay movie.
Give it a 5'7" out of 5'7". I give it an 8 out of 10. Really loved it. Dope
Why
film.
Isn't it 10?
Why isn't it a 10? I don't know.
Yeah, everything's got to be perfect.
Sue me, that's why.
All right, thank you for showing me it, Adam.
No problem.
It was fucking fantastic.
I'm glad you enjoyed it.
I loved it. Oh shit! You know what I was supposed to be doing this whole time?
What?
The fans of Sardonicast introduced us to this thing, or someone made this. It's a Sardonicast bingo.
Oh yeah.
Well, I wasn't the odd man out this time, so sorry.
Yeah. I just want to see how much we've done so far. Adam rips off an intro. That's one of them. Okay. Ralph says youtube.com/Ralph the Movie Maker.
Okay.
Alex gets annoyed by the bingo game. If you laugh at the guest face art, that doesn't apply. Alex makes a good point every so often. What?
Didn't happen.
Good. Ralph makes a bunch of points of varying quality. All right.
This is so subjective. This is up to like the viewer's interpretation.
I'll just read some of them off then. Adam rebuttals most of the points Ralph makes. That's a good one. Adam and Ralph disagree, and or Alex is somewhere in the middle. Ralph loves Elon Musk. Suicide Squad is mentioned.
Well, we
Alex
just did that.
And Ralph gives something a 5 out of 5. Adam gives something a 7.
Yeah, okay. We subverted your expectations. Sorry.
That's right. We did some of these.
Did we want to have a quick little talk about the short film Les Escargots?
Snail Boy.
Sure. There's nothing really to talk about with it.
I know.
I mean, it's pretty good. The animation's great. That's mainly, I guess, why it exists.
Great animation.
Animation.
Very disturbing, in my opinion.
Yeah.
It does feel a
very
little empty.
Weird concept.
I mean, it is a short.
Yeah.
When I first watched it, I feel like I had a bit more. It made a bit more of an impression on me. and through my memory, I was like, oh yeah, I want to watch that again. So after watching it a second time, I'm like, I didn't really need to recommend it, but whatever. I guess, it wasn't that big of a commitment.
Yeah, it was still pretty good.
Yeah, it was only like 13 minutes.
Yeah.
No big deal.
Yeah.
I love the
It was an
soundtrack.
interesting stepping stone.
I've still got the score in my head. Dun, 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 dun. Yeah, very
was
like
pretty good.
playful soundtrack, and I love that shot of his eyes as he's crying with a smile on his face.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that was fucking creepy too.
Yeah,
He was like dancing around the farm with tears just pouring out of his eyes.
That machine
smiling.
he made to smack himself in the head and kick him.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
He was holding onions to his face. It was pretty funny.
I love the juxtaposing, playful but disturbing and kind of sad tone and imagery in this short film. I love it when something doesn't just stick with one tone, and it's kind of like a mesh of tones that aren't necessarily contradictory but complement each other in a way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, those snails were pretty scary. I don't know. That's another thing where it's like, if I watched that as a kid, that would be on my childhood trauma list.
Oh,
Snails
definitely.
freak you out?
No, just the
Or
way
is it
that
just
they
the
like
idea of giant
the
snails?
animation,
How they presented it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I guess the fact
Makes
that they're
sense.
huge, but
Yeah.
yeah.
That would freak me out too, I bet.
Stop motion does have a rep for being creepy, so.
Uh-huh.
I loved that King Kong reference. The snail
Oh yeah, that was
grabs
cool
the
too.
girl out of the building.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, very strange and interesting.
Good job, Renee. That's his name, right? The guy who made it.
René Laloux.
Renee Darou. Good job,
Most
Renee
French
Darou.
name ever.
Ba-ba-da-boo. Ba-ba-ba-dee-boo.
Bada boom,
Questions?
bada bing. Let's do some
Is
questions.
that your French accent? What was that?
Ralph's
What
being
are you doing?
racist
The
again. That should be
Yeah,
one of
it's
the
a
bingo
French
cards.
people. Fuck French people. You saved your asses in World War II. I don't want to hear it. Anyway,
We saved your baguettes.
we saved your baguettes. Yeah. From what I've heard, French people don't like Americans. I have had
From what I've
relatives
heard,
and
French
friends.
people don't like anyone.
France
yeah?
is a very like my country only kind
Cocky.
of country. Like they're not really
Yeah,
interested in
that's
other
how it
cultures that
seems.
much.
That's how it seems.
From my
Well,
impression.
thank you
anyway.
for watching us, French fans. I'm sure you're cool.
We don't have any because they don't give a shit about American YouTube channels.
Oh no, we have a few. I already
I
know
don't
we
know.
do.
We have a couple. Whenever I look at
talk
my
to them.
metrics, it's like every other European country is just like, oh yeah, they watch my videos, and in France, it's like 2 people. And I recommend a lot of French films. I love French movies. There's a lot of
yeah, French
talent
movies are
in
great.
French cinema, that's for sure.
Indeed, there is. Do you have any questions, Alex? For the
Yeah, I got a
Reddit?
bunch.
Oh yeah. Okay,
Yeah.
cool. You can,
Well, you wanna
you can
start with
start
mine?
off if you want. Ask questions on the Sardonicast Reddit, everybody.
So our first question of the episode comes in from Samian, who says, "What was the worst horror movie that managed to genuinely scare you?" There must be something that scared you guys, even though it sucks, unless you're like hard to scare. I've got one. If you want
Sure.
to have a minute to think, it's a terrible, terrible film that is really bad. But as I've mentioned before, I'm pretty easy to scare, and the that god awful Blair Witch remake freaked me out
Got
a
you.
bit.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's something about that setting. Like I live in an area where there are like loads of woods and forests like that, and just something about being alone at night with like things walking around, and I don't know, that just creeps me out. And then as soon as they show what the creature is, it's like, oh, it's not scary anymore. But it's that mystery that really gets to me. Shit film, though.
All right. I don't even have an answer for this one.
Nothing scared
I'm
you.
I'm hard to scare. Pretty hard to scare.
Well, I'm easy to scare, so it's an easy question for me.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, that's a good answer. I just wish I had one.
I don't know. I guess As Above, So Below was a movie that was kind of bad, but I still kind of appreciated in some ways. And I don't know if I was necessarily really scared by it, but I guess conceptually, like the idea of... I really like these like kind of sort of supernatural horror-esque kind of films where, you know, the characters basically go down into this like underground cave or whatever, and then it's not like, oh yeah, they just get lost under normal circumstances. It's like there's satanic elements at play where it's like, okay, now you're trapped here forever, and like you know, that's not the entrance anymore, and like this is not the same sort of thing. I guess the concept more than anything is something that is scary to me.
Yeah.
I think overall it could have been done a lot better. It was, you know, a lot of it was pretty bad, but there were some scary elements also. I think my best answer for this question would probably be The Grudge, because when I was younger,
that's a great answer.
I watched that film and it scared me. And, you know, even some of the scenes where, you know, that fucking demon girl or whatever, ghost girl is like in her face, like right up against her, and she can't go anywhere, and it's just making that noise like or whatever. And that's still scary. The whole movie is pretty bad, but there's scary elements to it for sure, I think.
I can like remember nightmares I had about that Grudge thing.
Yeah.
Like picture perfect from like years ago.
When'd you watch it?
That got to me too. It must have been like, when did it come out? Early 2000s? It would have been around the time it came out. Yeah, it would have been around about then. And I remember being in like secondary school.
Yeah, I think I was 14 or something.
Young. Yeah, I would have been 12, 13. So that freaked me out.
Mm-hmm. You know what's a movie that scared me as a kid?
What?
Barney's Great Adventure. That's one.
Perfect.
Gotcha.
Got him.
Got you guys.
So
Got him.
Ralph is too cool to be scared by things. That's all we've learned.
Yeah, I guess so.
Get good.
Anyway. Next question. All right, here's one. Green Hood 300 asks, who is your favorite character of all time? I guess just like character from a series of games or movies or books or just one film. Although that's probably not going to be your answer.
That's a difficult
favorite character. That's
favorite
really
character.
difficult.
Or so one of your favorites, at least.
I don't know.
James Bond would probably be mine. I mean, I could look through my list of favorite movies and try to find other characters that I like. Daniel Plainview, I think, is a great fucking character. Or Alex from Clockwork Orange.
Oh yeah, Daniel Plainview's a great character. There's so many great characters out there. You know, like I'm a huge fan of character studies. One of my favorite characters that I really love to like try and dissect is the main character, Isabelle Hubert's character in The Piano Teacher. I think is like an excellent character study. I'm assuming you guys haven't seen it, right?
No, I have
okay.
not.
No.
Don't worry about that. I'll probably recommend it someday. That's an amazing character. There's a lot of cheese in the Memento film. I've watched it again recently, but I really love Leonard Shelby's character. I love the concept of
you think that's one of the best characters?
Well, yeah, I not necessarily like, oh yeah, because he can't remember things, but I guess spoiler warning, like we find out that he's willfully ignorant to reality so he can feel more comfortable with himself. He's presented an opportunity where he knows he can deceive himself and he decides to, and I think that that's a really interesting character attribute, and it's a very interesting commentary on human beings in general.
Yeah, that is actually very interesting.
Yeah.
All right. I'll take that answer. I also have Travis Bickle from Taxi Driver. Gunnery Sergeant Hartman from Full Metal Jacket. That's the drill sergeant. And Jules from Pulp Fiction. And I'd say that's about it for me.
There's a lot of interesting characters in Pulp Fiction. That's a load. You could have an entire list of like interesting characters from that movie alone.
Absolutely. But
they're all so well written. Holy crap.
Yeah, Jules has got to be it for me though. Joker in The Dark Knight is a good one.
Yeah, it's
although
pretty good
that's
choice.
based on comics.
Yeah. Well, whatever.
Alex, you got one?
I'll say the dude from The Big Lebowski.
Ah, the dude. That's a good one.
He's so elite.
Yeah. That's a good character to be. That's a character like everyone aspires to be.
Yeah.
Somewhat.
You're not wrong. You're just an asshole.
At least in college. Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right, Alex, you got another one?
I certainly do. How about this one from Reaper4578, who asks, how do you guys feel about movie pirating / torrenting? I was asking you guys the other day where, what was that? What's that Ethan Hunt movie, First Reform?
Yeah.
Oh, first performance.
Whereas like I can't see this film anywhere. Where I live, like there's no local cinema that's showing it. So what options do I really have when it comes to that point? 'Cause I'd happily pay money. Like if they put it on iTunes or whatever, I'd happily pay for it. But when I want to see it, like when people can't see films, why would they not pirate or torrent?
Yeah. That's the issue. I don't think any of us want to pirate things, but
No.
sometimes it's so fucking difficult to get your hands on these movies that you're just like, all right, it's actually easier for me to just torrent it illegally than to actually pay them to fucking get it.
Yeah, of course there are people out there that will not pay for a movie that would be paying otherwise because they're just cheapskates and they just feel like they don't care about whether or not the artists are making money. They don't care about supporting people's works. However, that doesn't reflect all of society, and us all being people who, you know, our podcast is funded by people who are donating to us because they want to hear more of our content. You know, Ralph and I have our own individual Patreons. Like, we're proof that the model can exist with people wanting to support art that they love. There's several artists, musical artists, that have release CDs on a pay what you want but otherwise it's free basis, and in a lot of those cases they've actually made more money than they projected they would have if they hadn't done that. And I think Gabe Newell put it best when he said that piracy is not necessarily an issue with people stealing, but it's more of a service issue. So when he created Steam, initially it wasn't in every region. And when he was thinking to expand to Russia, everybody was telling him, like, no, don't do that. These guys are pirates. They'll pirate everything. They don't want to pay for your product. Don't even release Steam in Russia. Now Russia is like its biggest market. Like, that's all of people playing Dota also.
Because what he created is easy. Yeah, it's easy and convenient. And you just go right on. People will take that any day.
If you put yourself into the perspective of someone who's like, okay, I want this product. Right now, the only way for me to legally purchase it is if I buy this physical copy that has a shit ton of DRM on it. If I have the wrong program installed on my computer, it won't even let me play it. If it's not from the right region, this movie or whatever, it won't let me play it. I have to buy like a region-free Blu-ray player, or I have to buy something from another country. And then even past that point, it's like, oh, HDCP. All these fucking hurdles and issues where you're seriously inconveniencing legitimate consumers with these anti-piracy measures. All of these DRM measures, they don't actually do anything to pirates, because the pirates are going to find their way around it no matter what.
Of course.
And then when somebody downloads
do.
a torrent, they don't get all of the bullshit that comes with it. They don't have the, like, oh, you can't skip past these anti-piracy things at the beginning. How ironic is that? Where you're forcing someone to watch all this bullshit before the movie, being like, piracy is a crime. But it's like, okay, well, if somebody pirates the movie and that first chapter of the Blu-ray isn't on their file, can they just use that as a defense then? Like, oh, I didn't know I couldn't pirate it because it didn't tell me at the beginning.
Yeah, exactly.
Either way, the issue is that pirates are creating a better product than the actual distributors, than the actual publishers. And so when people are faced with a decision of like, okay, do I want to buy this bullshit that is overpriced, I can't use on every device that I own, I have all of these limitations, and they're making it as difficult as fucking possible for me to actually watch what I want to, or I can just click a button and I get it. It's not about whether or not it's free to most people. Most people want to actually support things, and that's why you've seen piracy. The numbers have dropped significantly since Netflix, since iTunes. Turns out, if you just make things convenient for people and you allow them to purchase your product, then people aren't stealing it because they don't have to.
Yeah, that's exactly it. They need to understand most people watch things on VOD now and stream it online, and that if I want to watch a movie, I fucking Google it, and right on the right should be like the link to watch it on Amazon, Hulu, whatever.
Yeah.
And it should be right there, easy. And if it's not there, then people are going to fucking pirate it, because it's so much easier to do that. The Pirate Bay is actually a very good search engine. You can find anything you want pretty fucking quick. And that's something these big companies haven't nailed down yet.
It's kind of important also for film preservation. Like, we've talked about some kind of obscure films on this show.
Yeah.
And, like, we get loads of people saying, like, how do I get this film? I can't find it anywhere. Happiness being an example. I went into a bunch of different shops on various high streets, like HMV or whatever, asking, have you got this? A copy of this? No one has it. No one even fucking heard of it. Like, you're not given many options. And, like, if these big companies that are producing these movies are not going to be hosting them on iTunes or putting them somewhere to preserve them, I mean, what better place than to chuck it on a torrent site where, like, the people are in control of it?
People on the internet do it better than they do.
Yeah, exactly.
That's it.
Especially when you're looking at films that are owned by Disney, which they constantly George Lucas their films every time they make a release.
Yeah.
So, like, even the 10th anniversary edition of The Lion King, there are changes that were made. You know, you literally at this moment cannot buy the original version of The Lion King outside of probably torrenting it. Like, I have the VHS, but that's about it. And, you know, like, obviously all three of us, we understand and we value supporting artists and supporting the media that we consume, and we want to give as much money as is reasonable or as possible so that they can continue making these products. You know, you can see the gigantic Blu-ray shelf in the background of any video that I have my webcam on. However, it doesn't make sense to treat people as criminals when they just want to experience an art form and they may not have any other way of actually doing it. You know? Where it's like, there's been so many instances where I'm just thinking, like, I'm begging you, let me buy your product. Why did you release it this way? I watched a movie recently called After Lucia, which is from a very underrated director, Michael Franco or whatever, Mexican director. And the Blu-ray that exists only have non-English subtitles. So I think they have Spanish subtitles. One of them might have French subtitles. And because they just decided not to put English subtitles on, which makes no sense because the DVD has English subtitles. There's so many movies like that where it's like, the subtitles exist. You clearly own the rights to these subtitles, do you not? Why not just port them over to the Blu-ray? And so what I wound up doing is I bought the Blu-ray with no subtitles on it, ripped it to my hard drive, ripped the subtitle file from the DVD, and then merged them together in a single folder, and then used my Android TV box to read the hard drive and then play the movie. And it's like, I do this for a living, so I can afford to, and it makes sense to go through this gigantic effort in terms of just being able to watch the film in the way that you already should be letting me do it. By the way, it's not even on fucking iTunes. But the average consumer is not going to jump through all these hurdles to do that. So it's stupid to say that, like, oh yeah, they're just freeloaders. It's like, well, you're not even selling me the product I want.
Yeah, how are we supposed to buy it if it doesn't exist?
Yeah. So how can you even claim the loss of a sale when you're unwilling to sell it to certain regions or certain consumers under certain, you know, circumstances? It's like, I want an HD copy of this with English subtitles. You can easily give it to me at any point, but you choose not to. How am I a criminal for downloading something where they're offering me a product that you're not? It's just stupid.
Yeah.
They always whinge about it as well. Like, oh, we're not making the money we should be. We're not monetizing it properly.
Fucking Nicolas Chartier, piece of shit. He's genuinely a piece of shit.
Why is he a piece of shit?
He's the guy that basically he runs this like extortion business where any movie that he so he's a Hollywood producer, and any movie that he produces that becomes moderately popular, like The Hurt Locker or Dallas Buyers Club, he'll basically create these like blackmailing letters that he sends to people because he collects their IP addresses from the torrents and says, you owe me $10,000 right now, or I'm going to sue you for $10 million. And so a significant amount of the people actually cave in under pressure because they're being legally threatened, when in reality, there's no way that he could get $10,000 out of an individual for downloading his film. And he never actually takes anyone to court, really. He just winds up extorting them and making out-of-court settlements so he can get a shit ton of money off of supposed losses for films that, like, The Hurt Locker had such a shitty release. You have to understand that it was in like 2 theaters. Of course people downloaded it.
Yeah.
You can't complain that it didn't make enough money when there was no way for people to even fucking watch it and I'm sure it made its money back too. Like that's not an issue with piracy.
What was the
that's
pirated
an issue
copy?
with distribution.
Was the pirated copy like a digital rip of the movie?
Somehow the movie, like, I don't know, every once in a while there will be a movie.
Was it like an Oscar screener?
Something like that, probably, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't blame them for stuff like that. I mean, you should go to a theater and see it, if that's the case. But then there's some movies that are fucking out for like 5 years, and
there was nowhere to watch The Hurt Locker in theaters. It had a shitty distribution.
For some people. Yeah, when did it come out on DVD? Probably a few months later.
Like after the Oscars. We're talking about like between...
Whatever, the point is...
We're talking about pre-Oscars.
I don't condone it. Yeah, I don't think any of us condone it. It's just sometimes these companies provide no alternative, and it's like, well, I want to watch the movie, and how the fuck else am I supposed to do it? But I would never condone piracy.
No.
Like, oh yeah, just fucking steal movies. Because that's what it is at the end of the day. I mean... We can white knight it all we want. We could be
I will.
Like, oh, we're Robin Hood. We're taking the movies and we're giving them out to everybody. But like, it's
completely different
stealing.
from that, though.
It's not. In the instances we may pirate, which I do sometimes, that's the reason I do it. And I usually financially support the movie later on when it comes out legally. I either buy it or fucking rent it again or do something. I would never take a movie away or take money away from people who made a movie. That's fucked up.
Here's an analogy. Do you not try on clothes before you buy them?
Yeah.
If you're like in a store, you gotta make sure that it's the clothes that you actually want. You want to make sure that you look good in them, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I don't really see the big issue if people want to try out a movie before they buy it. You know? I'm not even kidding. Like,
well, that's what a trailer. No, that's what a trailer is.
No,
to
a
me.
trailer is
to
mislead people.
Trailer. Oh well, sometimes it misleads you, but that's not the point of what trailers were originally invented to be.
Trailers are meant to be misleading. Exactly, it's made to sell a movie to convince you it's something, whether it is or not.
At first, it was made to show you exactly what the movie is, what exactly you're in for. Now they use them to mislead people because they know what people want to see, which is like shitty horror movies and superhero movies, and they use that information to mislead people. But the original intention of a trailer was that, and that's the way most people use trailers still. I mean, you can narrow down some that mislead you, like It Comes at Night. But most movies, you see a Black Panther trailer, it looks like a Marvel movie, you know exactly what you're gonna get, right? So,
well, I mean, you know exactly what you're gonna get because you understand the hierarchy of Marvel Studios and who's in charge of what and the directors involved, blah blah blah. But as it is,
there's other movies that I use Black Panther as an example, but most movies you can do that.
If a movie is something that people legitimately enjoy, then people will pay for it. People will want to own it in some way. People will want to have a license to view it. You know, there's tons of nerds that will want all the special collector's shit too. You know, like there's so many movies that have been re-released 50 times and they keep selling all these different editions of them because people love the movie. If people enjoy something, they will want to see more of it and they'll want to support the people that created it. And just because there are a few bad apples of people that, you know, are just pirating because they can freeload, that's not an excuse to completely delegitimize all of the other people that are doing it for completely, I guess, moral reasons. Where it's like, oh yeah, I would like to buy this film if I enjoy it.
That doesn't make piracy right.
I don't think there's anything really wrong with piracy.
I think there is. You're taking money away. You're stealing something. That's what it is.
If there's a loss of a sale, then you're stealing something. If, let's say, somebody pirates something like the Smurfs movie, but they had no intention of seeing it, and the only way that they were going to see it is if they were going to pirate it, how is that a loss of a sale?
Sure. But that's one instance. And there's other people who just fucking steal the movie. Yeah, there's plenty of instances, but that's not all of them. And you're probably exaggerating how many people actually, like, watch the movie and then financially support it later. Because I don't know how many people do that, honestly. I think most people who pirate a movie just pirate it and fucking move on. And they don't give any money. No matter how you want to phrase it, you're stealing a movie.
Let's look at it this way. Movies are still selling, and you can pirate anything you want to anyway. If the impact of piracy was as great as Hollywood is pretending that it is, then we wouldn't have Hollywood right now, because you can literally pirate anything. People would just pirate movies and not support the movies. We already have that.
Piracy
it's
in some ways
easier to download a movie than ever.
Yes, it's in some ways it's a good thing for the industry because it actually promotes.
It's a great thing for the industry.
That wouldn't get attention other. Sure, but that still doesn't make it legal and right.
Okay.
It still doesn't make it okay to fucking pirate a movie and go, oh, this is fine.
Let's bring in this scenario then. Do you consider anything wrong about a friend having a copy of a movie and showing it to you, or lending it to you, or invite people over for a movie watching party? Only one person in that room has actually seen the movie. The only thing that you're doing by
the agreement when you buy a DVD is that you're paying for a copy of the movie that you can do whatever you want with, and you own.
Not really.
And under those, that's what it is. That's what a DVD is. When you sell a DVD, do you honestly expect people? What do the warnings say? Not to watch it with other human beings?
You literally can't do anything you want with it. Even if you copy it for your own purposes.
No, you can't copy it because that's.
But that's not part. No, even if it's just for yourself. There's so many limitations.
You're buying a copy of the movie and you're not allowed to do anything with it but watch it with other people. That's fine. I'm okay with that. That keeps people.
But how's that different from piracy then?
How's what different from piracy? Copying a movie?
Yeah, no, I mean, like, if let's say I want to have 20 people over for watching a movie that I own, and I'm inviting people over that are interested in seeing the movie, but they haven't paid for it. I don't really see the big difference between that and someone downloading from somebody else. Because in both scenarios, some people are going to watch it that either were never going to watch it if they couldn't get it for free anyway. Some people are going to be watching it because it's like, oh, my friend owns it, so I don't have to pay for it, and I'm going to experience it for myself and see what it's like. And some of those people are going to like it enough to purchase it themselves. When you share art with other people and you expose people to art that they wouldn't have seen otherwise, or make it easier for them to see it, you are introducing people as potential consumers to the market. A fraction of those people will become consumers if they enjoy the art enough, And if you're making good quality content, then people will pay for it because they want to own it and they enjoy supporting artists.
That's all great, but if you show it to friends, you should have a copy of the movie that you paid for and that you gave money to the people who made the movie for. So then you can show it to them. I'm not for fucking stealing a movie. And that's what it is. No matter how you want to phrase it, it's stealing a movie.
I mean, if it were actually stealing, then it wouldn't be called piracy, it would be called stealing. If it were stealing, we wouldn't have had to create a new word called piracy for it. Stealing is when you take something from someone else and they no longer have that thing. It's like making a copy of some, those old shitty commercials, like, you wouldn't download a purse. It's like, well, I mean, if downloading a purse meant that the person who owns the purse still actually has their purse, but I now have a copy of that purse and theirs isn't lost, and you actually didn't prevent them from owning that same thing, then sure, I would download a purse. Why wouldn't I make a copy of a purse? That's completely different than stealing. That's why they call it piracy and not stealing. I mean, Hollywood loves to call it stealing too. Yeah, but I mean, it is different. That's your opinion.
No, because it's a product. We're gonna end it here, but it's a product that you're selling for money.
Question.
And it is a good question. If you're not gonna give money to the person who made you the product, then it's fucking stealing, and that's how I consider it. Anyway, we should probably leave it there. Sorry, Alex.
It's a grey area, guys. There's truth in both sides. I mean,
there is. So that's why it's an interesting question.
Fucking mediator over here. Side. Liberals get the bullet too.
Do you want to end the Q&A there?
I want to keep ranting, but let's end it. Because I could argue about this for fucking days, man.
Yeah, I feel like we'd go around in circles for a bit, but one day.
Let us know in the comments who's the bigger idiot.
Let us know. Who do you agree with? We'll put a poll on Twitter.
Leave a comment below. Let me know.
Oh, nice. I like that one.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Somebody needs to recommend
a
movie. Yeah.
That's right. That's me, boy. Hello. Okay. So this is going to be an obvious one, but people want me to recommend it, and you guys haven't seen it. Filmed by Paul Thomas Anderson, called Punch Drunk Love. It's a wonderful movie.
Awesome.
You guys will thoroughly enjoy it, and I'm in the mood for some PTA.
I already own it on Blu-ray.
Oh, great. So now you just...
I was going to watch it the other day.
Pop it in. Mm-hmm. You have it downloaded on your computer from Pirate Bay.
I'll go torrent that now, thanks.
I love me some PTA.
Yeah. But this is one of his best movies. It's a wonderful movie.
Mm-hmm.
So...
Okay. Has it got lots of fart jokes in it?
The second best director named Paul Anderson.
That's right, Paul Anderson. Not to be confused with Paul W.S. Anderson, who also makes great movies like Death Race.
That was the joke.
Yeah. I just explained it for no reason.
I hope it's as good as Big Daddy.
Oh, it's. I don't know if it's as good, but it's up there.
What about the Water Boy? As good as that?
I don't know.
Hopefully,
It's better than Jack and Jill.
Oh, of course, Jack and Jill. Or that one where he's like a cobbler. That's a classic.
Oh, the one where he becomes someone else and then has sex with his wife.
Yeah.
That's fun.
51st Dates.
What an awful film. Anyway.
All right.
Yeah, thanks for that recommendation.
Yeah, thank you for that recommendation. It's been on my watch list for a while. Can't wait.
Enjoy it. Another Philip Seymour Hoffman movie too.
Oh yeah.
Nice.
For a bit. Yeah.
Awesome.
Hell yeah. All right. Thank you all for listening to this episode of Sardonicast. If you would like to support the show, because you're not a freeloading piece of shit pirate watching this content for free on our demonetized YouTube channel, then you can support us by going to sardonicast.com. $2 a month will get you these episodes early as soon as they're edited, usually a couple days before everybody else. Also, there's a Patreon, patreon.com/sardonicast. And if you want to join in on the discussion for Punch Drunk Love, just make sure to watch it within the next 2 weeks, because we'll be discussing it and spoiling it in the next episode.
That's right.
We got him, ladies and gentlemen. We got him.
That was fun.
Yeah.
Gosh.
Good job.
If I catch any of you watching this for free, if I catch any of you, you're going down. I'm going to sue you. Lawsuit. I'm Nicholas Chartier.
$10,000.
That's scary.
I'm going to sue you for $10 million. All right. Thank you, everybody.
Jesus.
Bye-bye.
See you, everyone.
Bye.
Peace. Bye.